a big recent headline that we have all pretty much seen is the 5-star quarterback recruit Bryce Underwood, who flipped his commitment from LSU to Michigan. His NIL package is rumored to be worth $10 million over 4 years. Again, this is a PSA who is 17 years old, who has never touched a college field, and is yet being offered $10 million. The Michigan affiliated Champion Circle chairman, which is their collective, Nate Forbes, had recently publicly thanked Jolynn and Larry Ellison, who is the founder of Oracle and one of the top 3 richest people in the world, for, quote, invaluable guidance and financial resources, reportedly related to the Wolverines landing their top football recruit, Bryce Underwood, thanks in part to a massive NIL deal. So Jolynn Ellison is a noted Michigan fan. She is an alumni, and Larry Ellison is not. There, he's just, supportive. And I think that is very telling of this NIL era. So I think it could be very much so argued that this NIL era is a bubble. You're having big time donors pull money together for packages for a 17-year-old. Rumors have it that Tom Brady had a say. Dave Portnoy from Barstool had a say. There was a lot that went into Underwood's commitment flip, and clearly donors are a huge part of this. I'm interested to hear your opinion on donors and their kind of involvement in recruiting and recruiting flips, and if you think this is sustainable.
Well, for starters, I mean, I think it's Dave Portnoy is a funny guy to follow on social media, right? He's super entertaining. What he does is, one, definitely controversial for many, but I think it's fantastic because that's what you need to keep eyeballs on you. He's amazing at getting people's attention. And he did that with this process as well. He called it back a few months ago saying, I'm going to try and get a quarterback for our team because their current quarterback, I mean, yesterday, terrific game against Ohio State, right? But it's a walk-on quarterback, and they're reigning national champs, right? So they want a proper quarterback in their system, which sucks to say, by the way, for their current quarterback, but oh well, that's the standard they have. He called this from a few months ago, and recently, this past week, he released this video saying, you know what, Michigan reached out to me. They said some person wanted to talk to me. I didn't really care who it was. And then they told me the name, the Ellisons, right? And again, the husband doesn't really care about football too much, but the wife cares about Michigan, has to say. With that being said, I think it is very, very interesting to see what will happen in the future because I've never even seen this in professional sports. What is the biggest difference? The lack of money. I've never seen a billionaire be a fan of a team so much that they offer to pay the quarterback's contract. I've never seen this in sports, actually. Never. I've seen billionaires want a team so bad that they'll buy the team, but you can't really do that with universities. You're not going to really buy out the university. And that's pretty difficult just in all terms, especially public school versus private school, et cetera, right? But I think this is breaking news in the athletic space because I can't think of a billionaire loving Tom Brady so much that he would say, I'll pay his contract. Like, if you really think about it, or I want X quarterback to be on my team so much that I will pay for his transfer and pay for his contract. I've never seen that before. And I think that's the beauty of college athletics in comparison to the NFL. Personally, I'm not really that interested in the NFL. College football, though, I love because there's something about the passion for your school. There's something about the passion for your athletics, for the logo, for the branding, for everything, right? And alumni buy into it. Buy into it so much that when you're the third richest man in the world, you can do that. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. I think the rich will continue to get richer, not only in college football, but in the economy as a whole. And this is just a reflection of, you know what, what's the phrase? To the winner goes the spoils, right? So if you can do that, you can pull it off. And at this point, I'm the one that's the traditional point of view, and I'm against, but there's no rule that says you can't do this at this point. And if you have the money to do that, which for someone like that, I don't even know what the comparison is for what $10 million means to someone like that. If you can do it, fantastic. I now wonder how many billionaires will come out and say, well, I like my team this much and I'm going to pay this kid this much. Is it healthy to pay a teenager that much? I'm not sure. I'll bring it back to what I do love, which is European soccer. European soccer, there are young kids that make it pro very early. The youngest I've ever seen, and this is someone that actually literally played my brother when he was 13. He was making $300K a year just through his Nike sponsorship at 13. And he's a pro player now, first team, etc. And this kid, the biggest thing was who would guide this kid to not lose it maturity-wise, to not go out spending, to not make a mess, because that's a lot of money, especially at 13. Oh my goodness. I'm wondering the same for these 17, 18-year-olds. $10 million at 17, 18. How do you manage that? All right, yeah, you can afford your watches, your cars, your penthouse, whatever. How do you learn the financial literacy, the maturity, all of these things? That's another side I'm really worried about, honestly. I don't know, especially just being realistic, right? When you consider the demographics of these certain sports, they don't necessarily come from backgrounds where $10 million a year is something that's normal. Realistically, nobody does, right? That's a very, very small percentage of the population. So my two things is, the first one, to answer your question, I think it'll be interesting to see how many billionaires will come out and say, well, I care about my school this much as well. Let me pitch in for this quarterback. And the second part is, if you're going to be paying them that much, I think you have the responsibility of not only educating them, but guiding them through this process until they can leave the nest and fly away to the NFL. Because until then, it is a recipe for success, but it's also a humongous recipe for failure. Not too long ago, Johnny Football, right? There's a full documentary of what happens when you have that much money and you party that much. What's stopping you from doing that? You're a college freshman with $10 million. Are you kidding me? Think about, realistically, think about what college freshmen will do to get attention. And you add $10 million to that. I think it's a two-sided equation, and the latter worries me more than the former for college football.
I agree. I think first, it's important to note that these star players, all that stuff, yes, they have agents, but they also need a financial advisor on their team as well. And it's now in this very tricky environment of the NIL era. Who can you trust and who can you not? I'm reading a book right now called Hot Dog Money, and it's kind of talking about these kind of sleazy financial advisors. A lot of people talk about the sleazy agents. They're everywhere in terms of also financial advisors. So you need to create a team for yourself that you trust and that has the credible source behind themselves. It's who is looking out for you in the best interest in terms of your success, but also just stability. And in terms of the donors and if this is sustainable, it's interesting to see the growth of donor contributions. There was data that was dropped from the Knight Newhouse College Athletics database that showed donor contribution by FBS conference. And donors to the programs of the FBS contributed almost $2.4 billion in 2023. This was an increase from the $737 million in 2005. Donors are the second largest source of revenue for FBS programs, which make up 22%, which is behind the media rights deals of 28%. It's also important to note that donor contributions are excluded from the revenue share the House settlement provides of the 22% going forward, which again is why it replaces one cap with another, because that 22% isn't fully accurate with the huge amount of revenue that athletes are excluded from sharing in. So it's interesting how much donors have always had a say in college athletics, but now in this new era, it is very much so out there and very much so has such a weight in one recruitment, but also in these flips. Because Bryce Underwood is from Michigan. He's the top recruit in Michigan. And the fact that he is from the state of Michigan and didn't recruit to UMich in the first place, but now with this money that very much so is hard to say no to. Now he's going to a state in college, all this stuff. So it's interesting to see the donors and their say. And you're right. I'm interested to see what other donors, high profile people, what they will contribute to college athletics, because this is the start of high profile people now having a share in college athletics.